um, range from 9.34 to 14.72 feet. In all reality, they are wider than that to make sure that you can have two-way traffic coming in and out of your. So if you would just address that for a minute.
So I believe that AmSource all through, the years, they've all taken care of all the easements. Everything is in place. If we ever needed to go back and look at them, I haven't personally looked at them,
Okay,
but yeah, they're pretty on top of it.
okay, okay. Um, Steve, do you have anything you want to add to that particular discussion before we move on?
No, I know that was one of Scott's more largest concerns was just looking at the plat information and looking at the development plans. The road, of course, is meant for two-way asphalted traffic coming in off of primarily 100 North and into the Macy's parking lot. And that Macy's property owns that narrow 9-foot sliver right next to this development. And so the question is,
Wait, wait,
well,
wait. So you're saying that as you come in, like by the monument sign right here, as you go into Macy's, there's a strip right there that is owned by Macy's? Is that what
No,
you're
sorry,
it's
by
owned.
Macy's I meant the lot that Macy's resides on. I
Okay, all right.
apologize.
So it's owned by AmSource,
Yes,
but it is dedicated to that lot. And
yes.
so if you are not dedicated, it is part of that lot. So if AmSource were to sell that lot,
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Scott
saying.
just wanted to make sure that all the easements and everything were in place so that those accesses would remain usable
Right.
if ownership changed.
Yes, and that's from before. I said I believe I can't say for sure, but I believe AmSource is pretty up on top of there as
Okay.
all of that.
Yeah, that was our largest concern. Looking at in terms of the boundary, just lot 101A is dependent on the asphalt that is installed on lot 106, and also conversely, lot 106 is dependent on the asphalt installed on lot 101A for the respective incoming and outgoing traffic. And so, if the ownership of those lots were to ever change, is there the opportunity that the new owner could restrict access to the other? And so we just
Well,
want to
we
make,
would put it in our documents that they couldn't do
and
that.
so I'm not sure, we'd like to potentially see proof of,
If you could just go back and find those easement documents,
Showing
that
that
would be,
if we were to sell it, that they
yes,
couldn't.
cut the other one off.
Well, and I don't know if we even have that easement right now because that's we're we want to develop the whole property.
right.
So,
But we totally understand and agree that with that, but we just need to make sure that if for some reason something changed,
got it.
um, case in point, we had a development that was going to move forward. They had pipes on the ground, machinery coming. Unfortunately, one of their principals' health took a real turn
Mm,
for the worst, and everything stopped dead still and went a different direction.
I get that.
And so we just need to make sure that those easements are in place.
Okay, I'm gonna put on here that if we sell, I'm just gonna go back and I will look for them then. Do you want me to send you something if we have something?
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You probably
I'm sure we do
know,
too.
right, right, or not, not you, but probably. I just went blank.
And
I'm
source.
sorry.
Yeah.
I do that all the time.
Um, one of the principals in AmSource, I'm sure, can pop them right up, or Lisa
Yeah,
may be able
I think
to.
Lisa probably can help me do it.
Yeah, Gaskell's, one of the Gaskells. That's who I was trying to think
Oh
of.
yeah.
Okay, so that was the main questions that we had from. That wasn't all of them, but that was
One
one
of
of them
them.
that
Okay.
Scott and I had from the last meeting. So that being said, which one of you wants to go first?
I don't have much to bring up. I mean, I guess there's a punch list, I guess, for lack of a better term, that was, I guess, sent to Melanie and your engineer on the last meeting like this one that we had. we kind of reviewed it a little bit. Even though
Okay.
you weren't present for it, we tried to give you kind of a heads up on what we might be questioning or wanting some
And I
concerns
didn't, I
and
don't think I
comments.
got that.
Um,
I got the, like,
You didn't, you were supposed to, okay, the notes were supposed to be taken and sent to Melanie. Okay,
so, so
so
the minutes
the
that we
minutes.
have
Mm-hmm.
would have reflected those notes.
oh, they were? So that one paper that you sent me should have.
Yeah, if you click on the
Attachment.
Yeah, but we can go over those again.
Yeah, we can go
Today.
over 'em. I managed to tinker with mine and finally got them to pull up, so we're all good there. But um, I was just curious if these bullets from the minutes had been kind of thought through, and or if we need to go through them one at a time and just kind of maybe address them as we go, or at a maybe conditionally approve this with some of this needing a little bit more time to get resolved. Let's just go through the minutes then, I guess, the bullet points that make sense to go over again, with you present so that we can kind of be on the same page.
Hopefully I have the answers.
Um, I don't know how best you want to go through that. You read the minutes more recently than I did, but.
I
um,
didn't bring them
I-
back in though. I did read them, but we can do that, Rob, or we can just have Steve.
I can show the minutes.
Because we had a pretty lengthy, good discussion already about, this pad H.
Okay.
And Steve, he likely has another comment or two that Mike can add to them. But I don't have any additional comments other than going over what we already went over with to see where we're at.
Which might be a waste of your time.
Well, I wouldn't word it that way.
I'm just
but-
kidding.
Um,
I'm giving you a hard time, Rob.
Okay, all's well. So, I'll just kind of skim through these minutes and kind of go through the bullets unless you want to.
No, I'm good with that.
Different. So, Scarlett noted that there was no representative, so that we've covered. Not
And I had emailed.
Right. So one of the things that we did, generally, we just continue it and don't discuss it. But in
Right.
this situation, the three of us, normally on a normal subdivision, we can get together and discuss problems or questions that we have amongst ourselves and do that in our offices without having to have a public meeting.
Right.
In this case, on commercial site plans, where we have to meet as a public body to review them, then we can't call each other and say, hey, what about this and what about that? So we took that opportunity, in as much as we were in an open meeting,
Oh, yeah.
to go ahead and have that kind of discussion.
get a
That,
pre-go. Yeah.
yeah, and I apologize that you didn't
It's okay.
realize to read the minutes.
No.
We, and then, that the minutes, had a list of things that we had talked about, so. But they're things that we can go over and I'm sure you'll be able to answer them, so.
Bullet point 2 is a little bit vague as far as what we were talking about, but
Ryan, is it okay if we scroll down to item number 2 on that one? Perfect. Thanks, Ryan.
so we talked about some concerns that we had about the site plan. You remember what some of those concerns were? The committee briefly discussed some concerns and questions they had about the site plan.
Well, it actually kind of goes into that, that's kind of like the introductory.
Introductory to what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So parking stalls and setbacks from the property lines was a topic that we touched on for a bit.
And I can expound on that if you want me to.
Sure.
So the existing building by code has to have a certain number of parking stalls associated with
Right.
it. And there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 that are inside the parcel.
Right?
But it's pretty clear looking at the site plan that the parking south of the parcel that's on the lot 101A would be utilized for this new building,
Yes.
but they're not on the parcel itself.
No.
And so there's the question of how do we count parking stalls? It's very clear that parking is probably not going to be an issue considering you have the large Macy's parking lot there. However, again, to the same question of ownership, I mean, heaven forbid something does happen, ownership of these two lots does split. Is there adequate parking dedicated to this building that is not reliant on the Macy's operations?
Which goes back to that perpetual agreement of the cross easements, not just for access, but for parking and
Other things.
other things.
So we've gone forward and talked to Steve Miner, who is the president of Associated Foods. And we have authorization that we can use those stalls for that pad. And I don't know if you need something from him showing that coming from Associated.
That would actually be wonderful. If
That'd
we
be
could
good.
have a document just indicating that those parking lots, and if it could be, if it's general to the entire parking lot associated with the Macy's facility, or if it's a specific area.
It's just that area right in front, those certain, I don't have the site plan with me. It's those parking stalls that are right in front of the pad. Those are the ones, and I think is there 10 of them?
They're bracketed, it looks like it's bracketed
Mhm.
by two landscape medians.
Yes,
And it's got 10 there, so.
the 10, so that should give us what we need.
So. But yeah, just official documentation providing that.
That they were okay with
Yep.
using those?
Yep.
Okay,
Because if not, we'd just have to count the ones that are on the parcel, and at that point, it's saying, well, we need more parking.
okay.
And then the next concern, speaking of the two islands, some of the landscaping, it appears that the trees that are going to be planted in those islands may be larger than allowed for
Okay.
clear view purposes. We especially, I mean, with any entrance, ingress and egress,
Yeah.
we want to have it so that people can see pulling out. But
Definitely.
especially in a drive-through area that has the potential for lots and lots of cars to just go in and out and in and out and in and out. So,
What are the trees right now? What are they showing?
Royal purple smoke tree.
I can't remember if it
Cross
told,
sections.
I think I had to look them up.
Okay, so it doesn't show on there. That's fine. I can
I
find
mean,
out.
it called out the type of trees, but I think,
It doesn't say how tall. Royals?
I-
So
I-
what is the size are you looking for? How tall are you looking for? What's the requirement?
so well, actually, the requirement in Clearview triangles now is no trees.
Okay,
So you just want to know where
And a
those
triangle.
triangles are for
Yes.
Clearview.
Mm-hmm.
triangles, no trees.
And for the landscaping that can be within that, there has to be a clear open space between 24 inches and then at least 8 feet. But we're actually, so you could have, if, we used to allow trees, and so that meant that you could have bushes or something that could go 24 inches high.
Right.
But then the tree canopy had to be at least, the bottom of the tree canopy had to be at least 8 feet above.
To give you that space.
Yes. And so in this situation where we don't allow trees in that particular part, then then the highest any of the shrubs or plants or whatever in that triangle could be is 24 inches.
24 inches in the triangle, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then no trees.
Yes.
Okay.
Then Rob read utility connections.
Yeah, so I don't know how this one, if it was gonna sell the property or lease the property, or how to raise the question on whether or not separate sewer and water connections, since it's being kind of divided into multiple, commercial units. If they need their own utility or not, and making sure that we have, the proper ways to bill and negotiate the usage of those utilities.
So
In
it's
the
gonna be-
building itself.
So it's gonna be just like, maybe Black Bear Building?
Black Bear and Morty's.
Yeah, just like it. So it'll all be like, here's all your water, but they're gonna have their own power, their own gas, but the sewer and the water, it would be us,
Okay.
the landlord.
So just
that's-
one connection going into that building.
Yeah, it should, yes.
Okay, and that's fine, just so long as, we've crossed that T and everybody is on the same page as to how that's gonna work and work for a long time to come, because once you get all the plumbing and everything in the ground, it's hard to
Yeah.
change that up in a building.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to raise that question, which also, I guess, correlates to probably a different bullet point about the fire line needs. And I don't know if Aaron Walker has weighed in, his report on this.
He did
Depending
do
on
a
what,
report.
I don't know if this building, is, if you build it, they will come, so we don't know what's coming yet. Or if, somebody's gonna come and yet suddenly we're gonna have to retrofit this building and we didn't put a fire riser into the building. Cause the plans don't show a fire
They do not.
suppression system at all going into it.
So no, so right now we are looking at a UPS going on the end cap. We haven't signed a lease or anything. I probably shouldn't be telling you that, but then we're trying to get maybe like a coffee drinker or a coffee shop and maybe a drink. And we talked about that before. And there should be, so if, and on any of those tenants, would you need a fire?
Well, the first one you said, I would think likely so, but there's so many different quirks with the fire code that I hate to speak
Okay.
for fire code.
So are
that's
you
why,
suggesting that we put one in for the fact in case we need one?
Have you submitted your structural plans?
To,
You haven't submitted structural plans to Cache County yet
I haven't
because you're
submitted
waiting,
it at all.
you're waiting for this.
Yeah.
But you have your structural plans ready, I would
yes, I
assume.
do.
Okay, so what we are looking at is the site. And based on the site, Aaron's thinking that he says the building appears to be approximately 5,140 square feet in size. According to the table B105.1 parenthesis 1, the fire flow for the combined area is 5,140 square feet of construction type V-B, and that's a 2,000 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. The two fire hydrants closest to the proposed building are reported to contain fire flows greater than 4,000 and are adequate for the proposed project.
Okay.
Excuse me. Now, if in your building you end up with a type of use that demands something else, then the building officials over at the county or Aaron, as they're doing their structural plans, they may come back and say, you're going to need a fire suppression system.
there's quite a few variables that could warrant that.
That again?
There's quite a few variables that could warrant
Really?
needing to switch to having to have a fire suppression system. So that's why I just wanted to bring it up before we
I'm just wondering,
miss that train potentially.
if we don't have a tenant that needs one, or doesn't require one, then even Cache County wouldn't require us to do that, correct?
Right.
We wanted to bring it up more of as
This
a
is
note
more
to
of a
you
heads up.
as, tenant improvements. If you invite an Instacare or something of that nature, because the medical facilities, they may require a higher fire suppression that our system may not be able to provide, and so therefore, tenant would be required to put in
So,
tenant improvements, and we just didn't want to be open sourcing. Oh yeah, no problem. Put whatever you want here. our system can take it. It's what you're proposing as an empty shell of a building, if you will, because we don't have those tenants selected.
True.
Fine with it. But as those uses may change or may change over the history of the building,
True.
our system may not provide the fire suppression needed for those various uses. But for the empty shell, we got no problem, but we just didn't want to.
So let me ask you this question. So
Hide anything.
let's say we did get a IHC or Instacarry in there. We're not going to, but what would they do if your system doesn't provide them enough or whatever they need? What would you do?
Well, that's where the fire suppression system comes in. See, right now, it's approved per the fire report here for the adequate
Shell.
flow that we have on the existing fire hydrants and distances and locations to this shell. But if something comes in, you might need a fire riser room and above ground building sprinklers to mitigate the fire concerns.
So that would take care of it.
That's where it would have to come in at a later date and retrofit the building.
Okay.
Internal fire suppression allows the fire department to approve something that has a fire demand greater than the public system can provide, because that internal fire suppression system actually reduces the total requirement. And so, yes, we will always produce the 4,000 gallons a minute at this location. However, if the IHC or some fictitious example needed 6,000 gallons a minute for fire suppression, they would have to install that internal fire suppression, get the reduction credit that provides, and then our 4,000 would cover the remainder, if that makes sense. And so it's just
That's right.
We just have to upgrade our building, basically.
Right.
exactly.
So there's just something to think about with
Okay.
who's coming. Maybe throw questions at different applicants that you got that might be wanting to come in. But it's just forward planning, I guess, for
Yeah, I
for cost
appreciate that.
savings,
Yeah.
if nothing else.
Scarlett will be right back. She was just going to grab something real quick. But
And we talked about the 9-foot alleyway. Do we need to go over that anymore?
no, the 9-foot alleyway was in regards to the parcel boundary and the shared access and curiosity, or not curiosity, but making sure that each lot could not lock each other out. And we've had plenty of discussion on that.
Well,
so.
we have a deck too, that it's shared parking through the whole parking lot. Like I guess if there was somebody did buy that, they still would have to go along with that deck. They still have to abide by the deck of the property.
Kind
I
of
don't know how they would change that if it's shared parking through the whole thing.
depends on how that's written. I would
Yeah,
guess.
it depends on how it's written.
Okay,
Yeah,
like kind of a
but-
blanket access, cross access, blanketed easement that goes through the deed process as the even changes
Deck wouldn't
ownership.
work. That's not the deck. Would that have to be an easement? I mean, I'm not saying that we don't have them.
Yeah, no, I get you. As long as there is a legally binding document that ensures that access can be shared between lot 101A and 106.
I bet you that comes out as our deck.
And if that is the case, yeah, we'd love to see that document. It
Okay.
could very well be it. I just don't know what's all written in that. And
It's huge. It's all
So.
kinds of stuff. No, yeah, so I think that's where that comes from, is our shared parking for the whole parking lot. But I will put that down here too. Okay.
Okay. Next on the list was a more comprehensive landscaping summary. You want to elaborate on that one?
So what we really like to see on the data sheet for the landscaping is you had let me get to it, you had the square footage, I think, of the buildings and the asphalt, but you didn't show, yes, you had the parcel area, the building area, the landscape area, and the asphalt area, but you didn't show the breakdown of, like, we require so many trees per asphalt and things like that. You didn't show that breakdown. And if you could show that breakdown, that would be great. And then also on the landscape area, looking at the plans, it looks like on the east side of the building and on the south side of the building, it looks like all the way around that building is concrete. Now, on the west side and on the north side, you've got a little landscape strip, which is great. Well, on the east and the south side, the way the ordinance reads, we need a 5-foot landscape strip along that, except for in areas that are, like where service trucks would come in and out of, in front of doors, things like that. So part of this concrete on the south and the east, you can have up to 5 feet. Well, you can have, we require at least a 10-foot landscape area, 5 feet of which can be
Concrete.
concrete. So you can exceed that width, but we need to have at least 5 feet of
It's on the front
landscape.
by the doors, the front doors,
Yes, on the east side. Well, I guess the front doors are on the east side.
or the east.
The east, it's on the parking. It's on the sides with parking.
So that
Both
would
the
be your
east and the
front.
south.
So you
Sides
want
with parking.
something right in front of the building?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the plans are showing 9, 10, 11 feet of concrete from the building all the way to the curb and gutter up against the parking.
So we need
5-ish feet of stuff that's not in front of doors or bays needs to be something other than concrete.
5 feet.
And yeah, and like Rob said, where it's in front of a door or a bay, then of course, yes, you can have the concrete go clear up to the face of the building. But if it's not, if it's just under windows or brick or something like that, then we do want some landscaping there. So those were, I think, were my 2 comments on landscaping that I've got circled. We already talked about the trees.
So we need to talk about the traffic management.
Yes. The other thing we would like to see, Melanie, is a traffic management plan. And where you have 2 drive-throughs, we just want to make sure that there's stacking, that the stacking is available for those 2 drive-throughs. And we want to make sure that so this is something that wouldn't have been thought out for your deck unless you're redoing the deck for these new lots, because in theory, and you might have to come up to the front so I can show you this on the illustration. But in theory, you've got your parking stalls that go right along the south side, that are right adjacent to the south side of the lot. So you don't want people to come in off of 100 North on the east side of this lot and start stacking up in here, because then that's going to cause that stacking to come back out here if it's a real long line. So theoretically, people coming in off this side would skip this lane and they would come over into here, which impacts lot, is that 101A?
Yes.
Which impacts lot 101A a little bit more than just somebody coming in here.
So how do we get people to come this way? Is that what
That's what we want you to show us. Or, I was thinking too, but it's not realistic because people are still gonna come in this way. Even if you said, this is the entry into this particular cool drive-through, and they all just came in this way and then came up there, that would be nice. But I don't think people, especially given the fact that this traffic light backs up clear up to here, I don't think people are gonna wanna wait in this stacking line in this right-hand or left-hand turn lane to turn left into here to come back up to here. So I think it's inevitable you're gonna get people coming in this way to come into this lot. So we just want you to show through directional arrows and stuff that will be painted on the asphalt and signage, that type of thing. And I do think there was a comment about signage. Did you talk about that while I stepped out for a minute?
No.
No.
So we would like to see a traffic plan showing how you're going to manage that and the signage, how it's gonna be, um, with the directional arrows and things and the signage that people are gonna be able to see and understand. Now, that doesn't mean that's what they'll do,
Right.
but,
But you wanna see it.
we want to see
That it will work.
a clear
Yeah.
a diagram that makes it very clear to people, this is the way you should go.
I'm just thinking, I mean, you can put arrows, you can do whatever. And maybe that's where, okay, so we'll just show you what we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm. That's what we want to see.
And then, what if, abide by that?
Yeah, you can't manually make.
No, I'm out there.
Yeah, you know,
No.
no, we don't expect that, but we do expect it to start out that people have a clear path, that it's clearly marked that this is the way to go. Now, if they choose, and you say, go turn right, and they choose to turn left, that's on them, but we want to see where you're gonna tell them how to turn.
Okay, all right.
And our biggest thing is to avoid stacking that would push them back out on
To the road, right
Okay.
here.
100 North that would block the road, or block the access to the road, not block the road, but the access to the road. Which, then the other thing is, we would like to see, and I know you probably, since you may not even know for sure what tenants are coming, you may not know what kind of signage, but we would like to see signage as soon as possible.
Signage,
For like the signage for drive-through windows or things like that, menu boards, that type of thing, so that we can make sure that they're not negatively impacting the viewpoints, you know, that there's plenty of
On the
clear
way.
view. Mm-hmm. And I probably skipped around, so whatever.
I think the only one we missed was the garbage trucks, and I'm not super concerned about that. I just thought it was worthwhile to cover that base during our discussion last time we were here. Um, it looks like a garbage truck or large vehicle could get in there and maybe turn around and back through a bunch of people in traffic and or
the garbage
negotiate.
is gonna be a little bit different.
Or-
That was a tough one for us to get in there. Before, it was right along the monument sign, like it was blocking the monument sign, so we had to move it
to the
so that people could see the
south.
sign. So that's why I ended up where it's at.
I could just see if there's really long trucks in those parking stalls right in front of that dumpster, backing a garbage truck in and maneuvering it around could play fairly difficult.
See, and there's nothing else, there's nothing else we can do with that garbage can. I mean, it has to, I don't know where else we would put it. Do you have a suggestion of where we could put it that you maybe, because even if we went onto the other side, that's where all the cars are coming around the drive-through. So,
Do you know Rob, do you know the radiuses, the backup, and, because if they pull in, how much distance from where they pull in do they need to back out?
Well, did we have an increase on the width and depth of these stalls that are on these plans? Because it's only showing 18-foot deep stalls as is. But no, as far as what our garbage trucks are, 43 feet long, and I don't know what their turning radiuses are. I've never truly played with it other than they're big trucks, and
well,
those
so,
Peterbilts don't have a sharp turning radius.
no, you're right. So they would actually pull in. I don't know if do they back in?
Well, these would be ours are front load.
Their front, so they would
So they would
pull
pull
in,
into it,
and
and
then
then they would have
dump.
to back out, and I don't know if
Or if they could go around. I don't know if they could get a.
well, they would have to back out some, because
Yeah.
the way it is, they've got to pull in, dump it up, and they've got to at least back up enough to
be able to straighten out.
be able to straighten out.
Your engineer should have software, vehicle tracking software to
Yeah.
show the path of those garbage trucks, and so we just like to see that it works. Because looking at it from this perspective,
It looks really
a good
iffy.
number of those parking stalls will have to be empty in order for there not to be a collision.
Which, for your sake, we want a good number of those parking stalls to be full and lots of people visiting your businesses.
but we might not be able to dump your can.
So it's just needing to see a vehicle trafficking showing that the garbage truck can access the facility, front load. I guess that's a front unload from this case, it's garbage truck. But front access to the
Okay.
garbage truck and then be able to leave the facility without interrupting your business operations.
How well that garbage truck can navigate through the drive-through if necessary.
Okay.
I would assume it's hard to guess though.
So your traffic management plan would be your arrow signs, which way people are turning in and out. You
You
want
could
to,
add the
And you
garbage
could add-
truck to the traffic management plan if you'd like.
okay,
Wrap it
alright.
all up together if you
I
think.
guess we could do that all at once. And I'm wondering if they are on my plans for the building permit. I'm wondering if that information, I don't know why it wouldn't be on this though. So let me, I'll get back in touch with my engineer.
Okay, one other thing, and I apologize since I had to step out for a second. Did you talk about the grease traps or anything?
Nope.
That'll come up in your structural plans,
Okay.
but we are just giving you a heads up that we still contract with Logan City for wastewater, for sewer.
Okay.
And so, they're the ones that would have to get involved.
With the
They
grease
like
trap.
to know when you're gonna have grease traps and things like that.
Okay.
Logan City Environmental. So,
They do all the inspections and everything, so they've got
Do
to
they?
be aware of it and approve the permitting of it.
Okay.
I don't think I have anything further.
One thought that or one thing that I would like to see added to the site plan is the property setbacks and an orientation of what is considered, I guess, what is the front lot, what is the side lots, what is the rear lots? Just that southern border is just really close to your property. The building southern border is really close to your property southern border. And if that gets identified as the front lot, then that wouldn't fit in the appropriate setback. So we just want to see on the site plan identified these
Setbacks.
setbacks and the identification of what is considered front lot, rear lot, and side.
and that monument sign that you've got shown on here, that's the existing one, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's the one right there as you go into the parking lot.
And I did have a question. I remember one last question, but I wanna find the right sheet. There it is. So, on these color elevations, is this true to color? Did my printer print right? Is this really a dark brown and a black and grayed out windows? Is that the colors that you're going to be using?
Oh. Can I come up there?
This one might show up.
Oh, see,
Better.
Rob's is much better.
Better.
Okay.
So, yeah, that looks like a black building, like a,
So it's Rob's more true to the color?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure. That was my final question. And I think we have, I think, did you have anything else, Stephen?
I have a little, and maybe this is, maybe the information is inside your stormwater design. But with the storm check chambers that you're proposing, one thing that's critical for, well, your perpetual management of the stormwater system, but also the verification that it works, is a isolator row. And what that is an area that is dedicated for sediment outfall so that it doesn't blind your system. If sediment is allowed to fill your entire stormwater system, then it will decrease its volume and thus no longer function as designed. And so an isolator row is utilized to trap that sediment to be regularly removed with vac trucks so that it can actually continue and
Continue to work.
operate other than the
What's
first
it
2
called?
years. It's called an isolator row.
Isolator row,
Yep.
ROW.
Yep, ROW. Or an isolating chamber that has vac truck accessibility. And looking at the existing design in which it has, it doesn't seem that there is a true isolator row with vac truck accessibility. I mean, you're gonna need a manhole or a catch basin grate to lower that vac truck down there to suck up sediment over 3 years of time.
Right.
And I can see that you've got some cleanout ports, but those are only 4-inch diameter and not large enough to get a vac truck pipe down and nor provide proper inspections and making sure there's not any hydrocarbon buildup. So it's a little bit of concern on the stormwater, just making sure that it's cleanable, maintainable.
That there's an area you can get down into it. I'm just wondering if it's not showing on the site plan. It should though, right?
I'm looking at the specific details for the storm tech chambers.
And it's not showing.
It shows the 4-inch gap. It does show that you have a catch basin leading into the facility with the regulated, controlled release rate. It does show that you'd have a storm manholes inlet and outlet going between the chambers. The biggest thing is showing it in the middle is able to clean out the system. So,
Okay. So are you requiring that? Is that what you're telling me? That's something that you are requiring? Or you want to see it on there?
I guess it comes down to is who's going to be responsible for the ongoing maintenance of that stormwater facility.
How do you guys do it? Do you guys
This-
do it?
Those are private structures within AmSource.
Okay, so we
There's-
do that.
There's
Maybe
already,
it's a recommendation then is, because if it fails,
And it's on
and
us.
it's no longer able to hold the volume that it was originally designed for, then Providence would have grounds to say, please clean this, and at that point, you'd have to clean it, and with this particular design, you're cutting asphalt to clean it.
it's really expensive to replace these chambers if you don't maintain them. In fact, I just saw one got redone in, which parking lot was that? Fred Meyer, what used to be Fred Meyer, Smith's. Yeah, and it was for lack of maintenance or lack of ability to maintain that stormwater chamber.
Because
And
they
it,
couldn't get in
and
there.
in this case, it destroys this business's ability to use their drive-throughs or their parking
You're
for the
kidding.
duration of replacing that system. And so, it's, in other words, to his point, designing it so that it can be maintained, because currently the design that's shown on these plans has no ability to properly maintain or even
I get it.
inspect
Okay.
what's going on.
So I've been being, this is a brand new engineer of mine that for these plans. So that's kind of good to know. I'll bring that up.
And another thing is you need the ability to inspect these to check for sediment levels.
Yeah.
As well as hydrocarbon buildup. That sheen on that surface, you should be able to inspect it and be able to see if it needs additional treatment besides just vac truck. And a 4-inch inspection pipe there's not much light gonna penetrate down there to actually see what's going on. I didn't see a percolation submission with this to understand how fast that groundwater is gonna release water. So that would be a requirement, though, is to see an infiltration study done to see the rate in which this storm chamber will actually percolate into the ground and drain naturally without
And what's that called?
infiltration study or a percolation test.
Percolation test, that's what I was looking.
And that should be conducted at the depth of installation, so that you should dig down to the site to the depth that this actually is bearing on the soil, and then do it at that level. It's not just to scrape the surface,
So
because
does that happen, or do I have to, is that when I hire somebody and they come and do their digs?
Yep.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
because one of the requirements is that your storm chamber is drained within, I believe, 72 hours or 48 hours. I think it's 72.
Yeah, there is
Double check.
quite a bit on this page, and I haven't had time to review this page.
There's a lot of information here, and it's a little, almost to the point of overwhelming. So
But you
I
keep
don't want
asking
to, I
questions.
don't want to put any negative light on your engineer. He did think about this. And so I don't want to put him in the doghouse by any means.
I will not. In the
But-
doghouse.
The percolation rate would be necessary to determine that this volume can drain within the 72-hour requirement.
Okay.
And normally I would get after him for using the rationale method on the stormwater evaluation, but your site is less than an acre, which
Yeah.
leans to actually the rationale method is preferred when it's less than an acre. So I'm okay with this stormwater method for the size of acreage.
Okay.
So, but most people don't develop less than an acre, so I usually have that comment.
Yeah.
But, and he had listed here the 90th percentile. I am okay going to the 80th percentile detention volume.
The other thing we need, Melanie, and I apologize, it was not in the first set of notes that we did. I didn't, and maybe I'm just missing it. I didn't see any projected costs. And even though this is private infrastructure, we still like to get
So
those projected.
I sent, yeah,
Oh.
my engineer put up the,
Okay. All right. Okay. No, as long as we have it.
yeah, you do.
Okay. Maybe I just didn't print that page out for some reason. Mm-hmm. That have the landscaping costs on there?
More engineering.
Okay. Then, yeah, then it's got everything we need.
We wouldn't need a separate stormwater management form application filled out for this one in regards to it being a private storm chamber. But yet, if they fail to do their due diligence,
Oh, the
that
grant of
we-
easement and
yeah,
everything?
then we can come in and fix the problem. I don't know that that's very,
I haven't done that before on the private ones,
yeah, that's why I'm
but I'll look into that and see if we need to.
thinking outside the box on that one.
And one thought on the stormwater, where you have it placed on the site plan, if it had to be replaced, it would shut down your business completely until it was
Fixed.
fixed.
Yeah, it'd
It's
take-
right there in the middle of your parking lot. And one other concern that is mine is it is connecting to an existing outfall stormwater system.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's part of the larger parking lot facility. I don't know if that shared asset is covered in that deck document,
Mm-hmm.
but we'd want to make sure that, again, if there is a change in ownership of property, that one cannot cut the other off from using the stormwater outfall line,
Okay.
and making sure that that stormwater outfall line has capacity for what you're doing. I know that it's all private, and I know that it's internal, but it's something that would be recommended to evaluate and ensure that the outfall line that you're connecting onto has the capacity for this new development to hook onto.
infrastructure that's in Macy's, you want to make sure.
There's an emergency outfall line that goes to the south into the Macy's parking lot that has existing infrastructure already sized, and you're connecting onto it. Putting down the building, you're gonna increase your stormwater outflow. And I would assume that that pipe has got capacity,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't wanna assume anything when you're putting something in concrete. I'd wanna double check that capacity on that outflow line, and I know that it's outside of what Providence City will be maintaining, but it's, again,
Get
if you gotta replace something, it's gonna put a damper on your business day.
Yeah, it would, definitely.
Yeah, it's, the overflow is leading to the existing Macy's AmSource parking lot stormwater chambers. And I don't know if those are being maintained or watched. And so that might be something to just look in on a side note, because that huge chamber that's directly south of this proposed building, I don't know what it's got for inspection abilities or maintenance abilities, and it might be getting, it's been what, 20 years now? It might be worth looking into just to make sure the maintenance guys are doing their thing.
Okay. I'll get to the property, I'll talk to Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that would be doing that.
I'll get off my soapbox about stormwater, sorry.
You what?
I'll get off my soapbox about stormwater.
Thank you.
You wanna make a motion? I got another appointment coming up quick.
Yeah. So have you got anything else to add, Steve? So let me ask this. Do you want to approve this, since we're the same ones that will see the plans, all the reset that comes back in? Do you want to approve this conditionally that the new set of plans meet all the conditions that we've just laid out? Or do you want to reschedule and have them come back? Continue this and have them come back with new plans, preferably get the new plans to us so we can review them, and then have them come back to approve the site plan. I'm good either way.
I think I'm good either way too. I mean, it's in person, kind of just gets everybody on the same page. So I'm always usually prone to lean that way, but it's you don't live across the street, so to speak, and I get it that if you can get it all your T's crossed on paper and we can verify that through some emails, I'm okay with that as well.
I'd be open to not having to have a formal meeting again, and just, these conditions are
Send 'em in.
appropriate, and send them in, and I
And be
mean,
authorized.
like Scarlett said, I'm gonna be verifying that they get adjusted, or they get met anyway, and so it's,
Right.
whether that happens across this table, or that happens at my desk, and I send an email back saying, please update this piece. At the end of the day, I wouldn't sign it until those comments are made anyway, so it's,
Okay.
I think I'd be open to,
So if you're comfortable like that,
yeah.
then I would entertain a motion to approve with the conditions. Ty and Diane, do you feel confident that you've got we did a lot of rambling. Do you feel good about you can list our conditionings? Or I mean, our conditionings. You can list all
We'll
our
be
conditions.
reading through the minutes then.
Oh, that will take
That
another
list
15
is-
minutes.
I don't think there's a whole lot.
In
other-
generally, I think that we did parking and where to count them, making sure that you have documents associating with the parking concerns,
Yeah.
that you have legal correspondence between the two pads, the access in terms of lot 106 and 101A, making sure that they cannot cut each other off from that access. The vegetation on the islands, making sure that those are appropriate and not blocking the site triangles, and identifying all of your site triangles, and making sure the vegetation therein is appropriate.
Make sure you speak into the mic.
Sorry.
please. That way Ty can definitely get these minutes.
My apologies. The fire suppression availability, this wasn't a requirement, it was just more of a note to you to understand your tenants coming in. Your traffic management plan needs to show the movement of the vehicles going through the drive-throughs and their queuing status and where they will be queuing and your specified improvements to help them understand the queuing. We know that they have their free will and that you will never be able to control.
Yeah.
And so, but just proper dictation of where the proper way to go is, as well as in that traffic management plan, the orientation of your traffic dumpster and making sure that the Providence City garbage truck can access it, move around, clean it without disturbing your business, and making sure that it doesn't require parking spots to be available for the dumpster to be emptied. Verification that the deck document covers those various legal arrangements to make sure that the various lot owners can't cut each other off, including the stormwater system. And then on the stormwater system, just verifying the design of that stormwater facility to making sure that it is maintainable and operable for you as an ongoing landowner, and ensuring that it doesn't require a Providence letter saying, please clean it, and you can't. So,
So weird.
I know, it's one of those fun things. Nobody thinks about them until it.
That's just odd. Okay.
And then on that stormwater infiltration study, making sure that the facility can drain within the 72-hour requirement. And so it may cause your stormwater to expand because you need more surface area to percolate, depending on that soil and how well it can suck up water.
Okay.
Seth, did I miss anything? Setback distances and identifying the rear side lot and the setbacks on the site plan and making sure the building is within those appropriate areas.
Okay.
And the wastewater side, just talking to Logan, environmental. So,
If your tenants need that.
Yes.
If the tenants don't, then you wouldn't need to, but.
Are you gonna send me these?
yes. And I will read through the minutes that Diane provides and make.
Diane's taking notes, but Ty actually
right.
does the minutes, so,
Okay.
I'll get them from him
Okay.
and then send them to you.
Thank you so much.
So,
I probably will need them. Okay, so now we're just gonna go back and forth till we get all this done. Once we get them all taken care of, then the zoning permit comes, or the
Mhm.
zoning.
so now that we've reviewed all of those proposed conditions, I would entertain a motion to approve, conditionally approve, and the conditions, is this everything we need for the construction drawings for the site? Or are we gonna have to have them do construction drawings for the site too?
There might be a couple of adjustments to these in order to accommodate that. Depends on what the engineers, I would imagine there'll be some changes to these construction drawings.
Okay,
So we'll need some new ones.
So let's just go back and forth until we get it all done. Does
yes,
that sound good?
yes.
Okay.
And once we get it all done, we won't need to come back to a formal meeting.
Right.
We'll approve it conditionally. However, that we'll have to meet all of the conditions that the city engineer and the public works director that we've come across. And if that ends up changing some of the construction drawings and has a ripple effect, there may be some other conditions we have to work into it.
Okay.
So, does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to add that, Ty, that if these changes make a ripple effect on some of the construction drawings, they may have to change a little bit more?
one of the biggest that I see is the stormwater, if that basin needs to expand, or if you need to add access points, as well as if you can't maneuver the garbage truck around and have to reposition that would change quite a bit. So
Yeah, that would.
I see those as being the biggest waves, or if you didn't get the setbacks oriented the way you wished.
I just don't know where we would put that garbage can.
Well, hopefully it works.
I hope it works.
So,
It's better to find out now than when it's in concrete.
I know, huh?
So
The garbage truck will just have to get a drink every time he goes to dump
Go
it.
through the
to
driveway.
West side of the property.
Get the garbage
as
at the
he's
same
going through
time.
the drive-through.
There you go.
Ryan, do you have any comments? Colton? Did we miss anything, Seth? Diane, anything else? Ty? Okay,
I'll make that motion you just mentioned.
okay.
And I'll second it.
All right, motion by Rob Stapley, second by Steve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Unless someone knows about something they want to put on a future agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
I made the motion to adjourn.
Okay, and or Steve seconded
Oh, I
it.
guess I seconded it before it was made.
It's okay.
My apologies.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, we adjourned. Okay. Rob, Steve and I, if Jody's here, Steve and